President Kim Ji-woo sat in the deepest room under the capital city, reading a report that would change everything he thought he knew about his own planet. The report was marked with red letters that meant it was the most secret document in the world. Only 12 people on Earth were allowed to read it, and now Kim Ji-woo was one of them. Kim Ji-woo was 42 years old and had been president for 3 years. He thought he knew all of his country's secrets, but this report showed him that he knew almost nothing. The report told him about weapons that could destroy mountains and spaceships that could travel to other stars. It told him about an entire second military that had been built in complete secrecy. General Choi Tae-young stood at the front of the emergency meeting room wearing a uniform that Kim Ji-woo had never seen before. The uniform was black with silver stars, and it had a patch showing Earth surrounded by a ring of light. General Choi was 50 years old and looked like he had been carrying heavy secrets for a very long time. Ladies and gentlemen, said General Choi to the room full of world leaders, what I'm about to show you will change how you think about our planet and our people. For 30 years we have been preparing for this day. We have built weapons and ships that make our enemies look like children playing with toys. The lights in the room went dark, and suddenly the air above the table filled with pictures that looked real enough to touch. The pictures showed spaceships that were sleek and beautiful like silver birds. They showed weapons that glowed with blue energy. They showed factories built inside asteroids and hidden bases on the dark side of the moon. Dr. Yusomin stepped forward to explain what everyone was seeing. She was 38 years old with short black hair, and she wore the same black uniform as General Choi. She had been working on the secret project since she was 20 years old, and she knew every detail of every weapon and every ship. We have been watching the galaxy for 30 years, she said. We have been learning from every alien signal we could detect. We have been building and testing and preparing while the rest of the world thought we were just launching satellites and sending robots to Mars. The world leaders in the room could not believe what they were seeing. The spaceships in the pictures were not like anything they had ever imagined. They were smooth and curved like living things, but they were made of metal that seemed to glow with its own light. They had no visible engines or weapons, but the computer displays showed that they were faster and more powerful than anything the aliens had. Dr. Yusomin explained that the secret project had started when an alien scout ship crashed in the Pacific Ocean 30 years ago. The ship was small and badly damaged, but Earth scientists were able to study it and reverse engineer its technology. They discovered that human brains worked differently from alien brains in ways that made humans better at solving certain kinds of problems, while the aliens had stopped trying to improve their technology because they thought they were already the best. Humans had kept working and learning and building. The aliens used the same weapons and ships for hundreds of years, but humans had been improving their technology every single day. The Terra Defense Initiative had built secret factories in places where no one would ever look under the ocean floor, inside hollow mountains, and in caves that went deep into the earth. They had recruited the smartest people from every country and given them unlimited money and resources to build the most advanced military force in the galaxy. General Choi showed the world leaders pictures of the secret factories. The factories were huge and filled with machines that built other machines. Workers in white suits moved between the machines like ants building a colony. Everything was automated and precise and running 24 hours a day. The spaceships were the most impressive part of the secret project. Each ship was small enough to be operated by just 10 people, but powerful enough to destroy ships that were 100 times bigger. The ships used a new kind of engine that bent space and time to move faster than light. They had shields that could stop any weapon and weapons that could cut through any shield. But the most important thing about the Terra Defense Initiative was not the technology, it was the people. Every person who worked on the project had volunteered to give up their normal life to protect Earth. They had families and friends who thought they worked ordinary jobs, but really they were preparing to save the world. Kim Ji-woo looked around the room at the other world leaders and saw the same expression on every face. They were all thinking the same thing. How had this enormous project been kept secret for 30 years? How had thousands of people worked on building spaceships and weapons without anyone finding out? Dr. Yusomin answered the question before anyone could ask it. "We have been very careful," she said. "Every person who works for us has a cover story and a fake job that explains where they go every day. We have fake companies and fake government programs that explain where the money comes from. We have been living double lives for 30 years. The plan for defending Earth was already starting." General Troy explained that the first phase was to deploy automated defense platforms throughout the solar system. The platforms would look like scientific equipment to anyone who scanned them, but they were actually powerful weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The second phase was to mobilize the secret fleet of human spaceships. The fleet had over 2,000 ships hidden in bases around the solar system. Each ship was crewed by people who had been training for this moment their entire adult lives. They knew every system on their ships, and they had practiced fighting aliens in computer simulations thousands of times. The third phase was the most dangerous. It involved revealing Earth's true technological capabilities to the aliens and to the galaxy. The plan was to let the aliens think they were winning at first, and then show them that Earth was not the primitive planet they thought it was. President Kim Ki-woo asked the question that was bothering him the most. "What if we lose?" he said. "What if our technology is not as good as we think it is? What if the aliens are stronger than we expect?" General Choi looked directly at Kim Ji-woo, and his voice was steady and confident. "We will not lose," he said. "We have spent 30 years preparing for this moment. We have studied every alien technology we could find. We have built weapons that the aliens cannot imagine. We have trained soldiers who are smarter and braver than any alien warrior." Dr. Yusoman added that the Terra Defense Initiative had also been preparing for the possibility that other alien empires might try to attack Earth after the Valak Empire was defeated. The secret project was not just about winning one war, it was about making sure that Earth would never be helpless again. The meeting ended with each world leader being given a special communication device that would keep them connected to the Terra Defense Initiative Command Center. They were told that the next few months would be the most important in human history, and that they needed to be ready to make decisions that would affect the entire planet. As the world leaders left the secret meeting room, they all knew that their lives had changed forever. They were no longer just running countries. They were part of a plan to save the human race from extinction, and somewhere in the darkness of space, alien scout ships were already heading toward Earth, not knowing that they were flying into a trap that had been 30 years in the making. The Valak scout fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system, like dark shadows against the stars. Their ships were massive and ugly, like metal insects with too many legs. Each ship was 3 times bigger than anything humans had ever built, and they moved through space with the confidence of predators who had never been defeated. Fleet Commander Vexstar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the readings from his sensors. The third planet from the star looked exactly like the intelligence reports had said it would. A blue and green world with primitive electromagnetic signals and crude orbital stations. The planet showed no signs of advanced weapons or military preparation. Vexter was 8 feet tall with gray skin and 4 arms that ended in claws instead of hands. He had been conquering worlds for the Valak Empire for over 100 years, and he had never seen a species that could resist their technology. Earth looked like it would be the easiest conquest of his career. The scout fleet consisted of 12 ships, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a small moon. They had shields that could stop nuclear weapons and energy cannons that could melt through the strongest metals. The ships also carried sensors that could detect any military activity within a light year. What Commander Vexstar did not know was that he was being watched by human eyes from the moment his ships appeared in the solar system, hidden throughout the asteroid belt, and behind the moons of Jupiter were sensor stations that tracked every movement of the alien fleet. The aliens could not see the human watchers because human stealth technology was far beyond anything the Valak Empire had ever encountered. Commander Yoon Hana sat in the command chair of the Terra Defense flagship Defiance, hidden in the shadow of Jupiter's largest moon. She was 31 years old and had been training for this moment since she was 16 years old. Her black hair was cut short, and her brown eyes were focused on the tactical display showing the alien ships. The Defiance was invisible to alien sensors because it was wrapped in a field that bent light and energy around it like water flowing around a stone. The ship was only half the size of the smallest alien vessel, but it carried weapons that could destroy targets the size of asteroids. Hannah had grown up knowing that aliens might come to Earth someday. Her parents had both worked for the Terra Defense Initiative, and they had trained her to be a ship commander from the time she could walk. She had spent 15 years learning how to fly spaceships and fight battles in the darkness of space. The alien scout ships moved deeper into the solar system. Scanning each planet as they passed Mars showed no signs of life, which was what the aliens expected. But hidden under the surface of Mars were weapon platforms that could fire energy beams across millions of miles of space as the alien fleet approached Earth's orbit. The first surprise was waiting for them. The space around Earth was filled with what looked like communication satellites and scientific instruments. But when the aliens tried to scan these objects more closely, they discovered that their sensors were being blocked by some kind of interference. Commander Vexstar ordered his ships to move closer to Earth so they could get better readings. He was starting to feel uneasy because his sensors should have been able to detect everything within a million miles of the planet. Instead, he was getting strange readings that made no sense the moment the alien ships crossed into Earth's defensive perimeter. The hidden weapons platforms activated. The space around the alien fleet suddenly filled with energy beams that moved faster than light and struck with the force of exploding stars. The first alien ship to die was the destroyer Kethmoran. It was scanning the dark side of Earth's moon when a beam of pure energy struck it from a direction where nothing should have existed. The ship's shields flared brightly for a moment, and then the entire vessel turned into a cloud of glowing gas. Commander Vexstar watched in shock as 3 more of his ships were destroyed in the space of 10 seconds. The energy beams seemed to come from empty space, and they were more powerful than anything in the Valak Empire's arsenal. His remaining ships immediately raised their shields and prepared to return fire, but there were no targets to shoot at. The human weapons platforms were completely invisible to alien sensors, and they could fire from any direction without warning. The alien ships found themselves fighting an enemy they could not see against weapons they could not understand. Hannah watched the battle from her hidden position and smiled. The aliens were doing exactly what the human planners had expected. They were trying to fight a conventional space battle, but this was not a conventional battle. This was a demonstration of human technological superiority. The alien ships began firing their energy cannons in all directions, hoping to hit something by accident. Their weapons were powerful enough to destroy cities, but they were hitting empty space while the invisible human platforms continued to pick off alien vessels one by one. Commander Vexstar realized that his fleet was being destroyed by an enemy that was far more advanced than his. Intelligence reports had suggested. He ordered his remaining ships to retreat. But it was too late. The human weapons platforms had surrounded the alien fleet and were systematically destroying every ship. The alien energy shields which had protected Valak ships for centuries were useless against human weapons. The human energy beams passed through the shields like they were not there and struck the alien hulls with devastating effect. Each shot was precisely aimed to cause maximum damage. Within 20 minutes of entering Earth's defensive perimeter, the entire Valak scout fleet was either destroyed or disabled. Only 3 ships managed to escape, and they were badly damaged, with their sensors recording data that would terrify the Valak High Command. The battle was over so quickly that most people on Earth did not even know it had happened. The alien ships had been detected destroyed, and their wreckage cleared away before the evening news broadcasts began. The only sign that anything had happened was a brief increase in shooting star activity as alien debris burned up in Earth's atmosphere. Commander Hannah looked at her tactical display and saw that the space around Earth was clear of alien vessels. The first test of human technology against alien weapons had been a complete success. The Terra Defense Initiative had proven that their 30 years of preparation had not been wasted, but Hannah also knew that this was just the beginning. The scout fleet had been small and unprepared for a real fight. The main alien invasion force would be much larger and much more dangerous. The aliens would not make the same mistake twice. Dr. Park Minji intercepted the communications from the surviving alien ships as they fled toward their home territory. The aliens were sending emergency signals to their Empire, describing weapons that seemed to violate the laws of physics and defenses that made their targets completely invisible. The message that the fleeing aliens carried would soon reach the Valak High Command and trigger a response that would bring thousands of alien warships to Earth's solar system. The real war was about to begin, and humanity had just announced to the galaxy that Earth was not the helpless planet that everyone had thought it was. In the depths of space, the Valak Empire was about to learn that they had chosen the wrong world to conquer. Director Kang Min-yuk stood in the secret command center that had been built 5 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean. The center was larger than most cities and filled with computers that could process information faster than any alien technology. In the galaxy, thousands of people worked in the center, coordinating Earth's defense against the coming invasion. Kang Min-yuk was 45 years old and had been chosen to lead the Terra Defense Initiative because he understood both human nature and alien psychology better than anyone else. His calm voice and steady hands had guided the secret project for over a decade. The massive invasion fleet that the Valak Empire was assembling had been detected by human sensors while it was still being organized. The fleet was larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen before, with over 10,000 ships and enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. But Director Kang knew something that the aliens did not know: the size of their fleet was not an advantage, it was a weakness. The more ships they brought to Earth, the more targets the human weapons would have to destroy. Dr. Nam Jisoo entered the command center carrying a communication device that would broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. She was 34 years old and had been chosen to be Earth's first official ambassador to the galactic community. Her job was to deliver a message that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The message had been carefully written by teams of linguists, psychologists, and military strategists. It was designed to accomplish several goals at once. First, it would warn the Valak Empire that Earth was not helpless. Second, it would inspire hope in the conquered worlds that were suffering under imperial rule. Third, it would establish Earth as a new power in galactic politics. Director Kang looked at the holographic display showing the positions of every ship in the Valak invasion fleet. The aliens were arranging their ships in the traditional imperial attack formation that had been used to conquer hundreds of worlds. The formation was designed to overwhelm defenders with massive firepower from multiple directions. What the aliens did not realize was that human defensive systems were not like anything they had encountered before. The weapons platforms that had destroyed the scout fleet were just the beginning of Earth's defensive capabilities. The real surprises were hidden throughout the solar system, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. The ultimatum was broadcast simultaneously on every frequency that the Empire used for communication. It was translated into over 500 languages and sent to every inhabited world within 100 light-years of Earth. The message was simple, but its implications were profound. Dr. Nam Jisoo spoke into the communication device with the authority of someone who represented an entire species. We are the people of Earth, and we address this message to the Valak Empire and to all worlds that can hear our voice. For too long, the galaxy has lived in fear of imperial conquest. Today that fear ends. The message continued: we know that your invasion fleet is approaching our solar system. We know that you believe your superior numbers will overwhelm our defenses. You are wrong. Your empire has grown weak and complacent while we have grown strong and prepared. The most important part of the message was the warning that followed. We offer the Valak Empire one opportunity to withdraw from our space and to cease all military operations against inhabited worlds. If you choose to continue your path of conquest, you will face the full might of Earth's defensive capabilities. The ultimatum also contained a promise that shocked every listener. We hereby extend our protection to any world that requests it. Any planet that calls for our help will receive it. Any fleet that threatens innocent life will be destroyed. Our technology is beyond your understanding, and our resolve is absolute. The message ended with words that would be remembered throughout galactic history. The age of conquest is over. The age of protection begins today. Humanity takes its place as the guardian of the galaxy. The reaction to the ultimatum was immediate and dramatic. On the bridge of the Valak flagship, Supreme Admiral Cothran listened to the human message with growing rage. The primitive planet was not only refusing to surrender, it was threatening the entire empire and offering to protect other worlds. But beneath his anger, Cothran felt something he had not experienced in over a century: fear. The humans spoke with the confidence of a species that knew it could back up its threats. The destruction of the scout fleet had proven that Earth's weapons were real and devastating. Across the galaxy, the response was very different on worlds that had been conquered by the Empire. The human message was heard as the answer to prayers that had been offered for generations. Resistance movements that had been hiding in caves and forests began to emerge. The planet Kepler 442b was the first to officially request Earth's protection. The world had been conquered by the Empire 50 years ago, and its population had been enslaved to mine rare metals. The planetary government sent a coded message to Earth asking for help against their imperial oppressors within. Dozens of other worlds had sent similar messages. The Empire's communication networks were flooded with requests for help from planets that had been too afraid to resist before. Earth's ultimatum had given them hope that liberation was possible. The Valak High Command realized that they were facing a crisis that went far beyond a single military confrontation. The human message had triggered the beginning of a galaxy-wide rebellion that could destroy the Empire even if they won the battle. At Earth Intelligence Chief Anthara reported that Imperial forces on over 200 worlds were dealing with uprisings and sabotage. The mere possibility that Earth could provide protection had inspired subject populations to rise against their oppressors. Supreme Admiral Cothran made the decision that would seal the fate of the Empire. He ordered the invasion fleet to proceed to Earth at maximum speed and to begin the attack as soon as they arrived. He believed that a quick, decisive victory would prove that the human threats were empty. The Imperial propaganda machine worked overtime to counter the human message. They broadcast claims that Earth was bluffing and that the destruction of the scout fleet had been accomplished through trickery rather than superior technology. But the propaganda was not convincing. The footage of the battle showed human weapons that were clearly more advanced than anything the Empire possessed. The energy beams that had destroyed the scout ships were not tricks, they were demonstrations of technological superiority. As the invasion fleet approached Earth's solar system, the human response was carefully measured. The Terra Defense Initiative could have destroyed the alien ships while they were still far from Earth, but Director Kong decided to let them approach closer. The plan was to allow the aliens to see Earth's defenses before the battle began. The hope was that the sight of human military capabilities would convince the aliens to withdraw without a fight. But if the aliens chose to attack, they would face the full power of humanity's secret weapons. The stage was set for the largest space battle in galactic history. On one side was the Valak Empire with 10,000 ships and the experience of 1,000 years of conquest. On the other side was humanity with technology that seemed to violate the laws of physics and the determination to protect not just Earth but every world in the galaxy. The outcome of the battle would determine whether the galaxy continued to live under imperial rule or whether a new age of freedom would begin. The fate of billions of beings across hundreds of worlds hung in the balance, and in the depths of space, the human fleet waited, invisible to alien sensors but ready to reveal themselves at the moment of greatest need. The Valak invasion fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a dark cloud that blocked out the stars. 10,000 ships arranged in perfect formation, each one bristling with weapons that could destroy cities. The fleet was so large that it took 3 hours for all the ships to emerge from hyperspace. Supreme Admiral Cothran stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator, and felt the familiar thrill of approaching victory. The third planet from the star looked small and helpless compared to the massive fleet that surrounded it. No world had ever resisted such overwhelming force. The Admiral was confident that the human ultimatum had been nothing more than desperate bluffing. The destruction of the scout fleet had been accomplished through surprise and trickery, but now the Empire was prepared for whatever tricks the humans might try. Commander Li Hyun watched the alien fleet from the bridge of the human flagship Terra's Pride. The ship was hidden behind Earth's moon, invisible to alien sensors but tracking every movement of the invasion force. Li Hyun had been waiting for this moment his entire life. The Terra's Pride was the most advanced warship ever built by human hands. It was Only half the size of the smallest alien cruiser, but it carried weapons that could destroy targets the size of asteroids. The ship's hull was made of materials that had been developed in the secret laboratories of the Terra Defense Initiative Lee. Han was no longer just a commander monitoring alien communications. He was now admiral of the human fleet and responsible for the defense of not just Earth but every world in the galaxy that had asked for humanity's protection. The alien fleet began its approach to Earth in the standard Imperial attack formation. The ships moved slowly and deliberately, broadcasting surrender demands on every frequency they could detect. The aliens expected the humans to panic and beg for mercy instead. They received a response that would echo through galactic history. Dr. Park Minji's voice spoke from every human communication system in the solar system, addressing the alien fleet directly. Attention, Valak Invasion Force, he said, you have entered the territory of the Terran Defense Coalition. You have been warned to withdraw, but you have chosen to proceed. This is your final opportunity to leave our space peacefully. The alien response was immediate and predictable. Supreme Admiral Cothran broadcast his own message demanding the immediate surrender of Earth and threatening to destroy every human city if his demands were not met. The Admiral's message was still being transmitted when the first demonstration of human power began. The space around Earth suddenly filled with energy signatures that had never been seen before. Hundreds of objects that had appeared to be satellites and space stations revealed themselves as weapons. Platforms. The platforms did not attack immediately. Instead, they simply activated their defensive shields and targeting systems. The energy output was so enormous that it interfered with the alien ship's sensors and communications. The aliens found themselves flying blind into a defensive network that defied their understanding of physics. Admiral Lee Hyan gave the order that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. All ships execute protocol revelation. Show them what we built in the darkness around Earth and throughout the solar system. The human fleet materialized from stealth fields that had made them completely invisible. 2,000 ships appeared as if from nowhere, each one positioned to catch the alien formation in a carefully planned trap. The alien fleet commanders watched in shock as ships that were not supposed to exist surrounded their massive formation. The human vessels were smaller and sleeker than the alien ships, but they moved with precision and speed that seemed impossible. Supreme Admiral Cothran realized that he had made a terrible mistake. The human fleet was not hiding behind their planet's defenses. They were surrounding his ships. The humans had allowed the alien fleet to enter their territory so they could demonstrate their superiority, but the true shock came when the human weapons platforms revealed their ultimate capability. The space around the disabled alien fleet began to glow with energy patterns that seemed to bend light itself. The humans were not just showing superior technology. They were demonstrating mastery over the fundamental forces of the universe. Commander Yoon Hanna spoke from the bridge of the Defiance, addressing the alien fleet with calm authority. Valak commanders, your ships are now surrounded by weapons that can destroy your entire fleet in seconds. Your shields are useless against our technology, and your weapons cannot penetrate our defenses. The demonstration continued as human weapons systematically disabled alien ships without destroying them. Energy beams passed through the strongest shields in the galaxy and shut down alien engines and weapon systems. The aliens found themselves helpless spectators to their own defeat. The message was clear: humanity possessed the power to destroy the invasion fleet, but chose to show mercy. Instead, the human weapons could have turned every alien ship into expanding clouds of plasma, but instead they merely removed the aliens' ability to fight. Dr. Park Minji's voice spoke again, this time addressing not just the alien fleet, but every world in the galaxy that could receive the transmission. You came here believing you were the masters of the galaxy. You were wrong. We are not your victims. We are your successors. The final part of the message would be remembered as the moment when galactic civilization changed forever. The age of conquest is over. Any world that calls for our protection will receive it. Any fleet that threatens innocent life will meet the same fate as yours. The Valak fleet's withdrawal was swift and complete. Supreme Admiral Cothran ordered his ships to retreat at maximum speed, carrying with them the knowledge that the Empire's technological superiority was an illusion. The humans had revealed capabilities that made The Empire's weapons looked like toys, but the real revolution was just beginning across the galaxy. Worlds that had been conquered by the Empire declared their independence, knowing that humanity's fleet stood ready to support them. The balance of power that had remained static for 1,000 years shifted in a single day. The first world to officially request Earth's protection was Kepler 442b. Within hours, human ships appeared in the system and began dismantling the Imperial garrison. The liberation was accomplished without a single shot being fired. The mere presence of human vessels was enough to convince the Imperial forces to surrender. Dozens of other worlds followed, sending desperate messages to Earth asking for protection. From Imperial retaliation, the Terra Defense Initiative found itself managing the liberation of entire star systems while continuing to monitor the retreating Valak fleet. The Empire's response was predictable and desperate. Imperial forces throughout the galaxy began attacking worlds that had declared independence, hoping to crush the rebellion before human ships could arrive to help. But the human fleet was faster and more capable than the Empire had imagined. Human ships appeared in system after system, arriving before Imperial reinforcements could reach rebel worlds. The Empire's forces found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned at every turn. The war that followed would reshape the galaxy, but its outcome was never in doubt. The Valak Empire had built their power on the assumption that they possessed the most advanced technology in the galaxy. That assumption had been proven false. Supreme Admiral Cothran returned to the Imperial capital carrying news that would destroy the Empire's confidence forever. The humans were not just technologically superior, they were so far ahead that Imperial weapons were useless against them. The Empire's scientists worked frantically to understand human technology, but their efforts were futile. The humans had developed weapons and defenses based on principles of physics that the Empire did not understand. Within a year of the failed invasion, the Valak Empire had collapsed. Worlds that had been conquered centuries ago were free and protected by human fleets. The galaxy entered a new age of peace and cooperation, guided by the species that had once been dismissed as primitive. The warning that humanity had given. Commander Li Haiyan stood in the control room of the most secret space station that Earth had ever built. The station was hidden behind the moon where no one could see it from Earth. The walls were covered with screens showing stars and planets. But today something was very different. The screens were showing alien messages that made his heart beat fastly. Hen was 35 years old and had spent his whole life preparing for this moment. He had trained for 15 years to understand alien languages and technology. His black hair was cut short like a soldier and his brown eyes were always watching for danger. He wore the dark blue uniform of the Terra Defense Unit, a group so secret that most people on Earth did not know it existed. Dr. Park Minji sat at her computer, working faster than Li Haiyan had ever seen her work. Her fingers moved across the keyboard like a piano player, making music, but the sounds coming from her computer were not music, they were alien voices speaking in a language that sounded like metal scraping against stone. Park Minji was 28 years old and the smartest person Li Haiyan had ever met. She could speak 12 Earth languages, and now she was learning to speak alien languages too. Her long black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and she wore thick glasses that made her eyes look bigger. She had been working for 18 hours straight without stopping to eat or sleep. The alien messages were coming from very far away in space. The messages were talking about Earth, but not in a good way. The aliens called Earth a small blue rock with stupid animals living on it. They were planning to come to Earth and take everything valuable from the planet. Then they would kill every human being and use Earth as a place to mine metals and crystals. Li Haiyan walked over to Park Minji and looked at her screen. The words on the screen were in English now because her computer had translated them from alien language. What he read made him feel sick to his stomach. The aliens called themselves the Valak Empire, and they ruled over many planets and star systems. They had been conquering worlds for thousands of years, and they were very good at it. They had powerful spaceships and weapons that could destroy entire cities with one shot. They had never lost a war, and they did not think they would lose against Earth. The worst part was that the aliens thought humans were like insects. They thought human technology was so primitive that the war would be over in a few hours. They were planning to attack Earth as a training exercise for their young soldiers. They wanted to show other planets what would happen if they tried to fight against the Valak Empire. Park Minji looked up from her computer, and her face was pale. She had been listening to the alien messages for hours, and now she understood what they were planning. Her voice was quiet when she spoke to Li Haiyan. The aliens are not just coming to take our planet. She said they want to make an example of us. They want to show the whole galaxy what happens when you try to fight them. They are going to broadcast the destruction of Earth to every planet in the galaxy. Li Haiyan felt his hands make fists his whole life had been spent preparing for aliens to come to Earth. But he had always hoped they would be friendly aliens who wanted to trade or share knowledge. These aliens were not friendly. They were monsters who enjoyed destroying other worlds and killing innocent people. The alien messages also told Li Haiyan Park Minji when the attack would happen. The aliens were sending scout ships first to look at Earth and make sure there were no surprises. The scout ships would arrive in 6 months then. The main battle fleet would come with thousands of ships and millions of soldiers, but Li Haiyan knew something that the aliens did not know. Earth was not as helpless as it looked. For 30 years, a secret group of scientists and engineers had been building weapons and spaceships that were hidden from everyone. Even most world leaders did not know about the secret weapons. The secret started after a small alien ship crashed in the ocean 30 years ago. The ship was badly damaged, but Earth scientists were able to study it and learn how alien technology worked. They discovered that humans were actually much smarter than most alien races. Humans could build better technology, but they needed time to figure out how to do it. So the secret group was formed with the best minds from every country on Earth. They built hidden factories under the ocean and inside mountains. They created new metals that were stronger than anything the aliens had. They invented energy weapons that could cut through any material. They even learned how to make spaceships that could travel faster than light. The group called itself the Terra Defense Initiative, and they had been preparing for this day for 3 decades. They knew that someday hostile aliens would come to Earth, and they wanted to be ready. The plan was to let the aliens think Earth was weak and primitive. Then, when the aliens attacked, Earth would surprise them with technology that was far beyond anything the aliens had ever seen. Li Haiyan walked to his command chair and pressed a red button that he had hoped he would never have to press. The button sent a secret signal to Terra Defense Initiative bases all around the world, and on the moon the signal meant that the alien invasion was really going to happen, and it was time to get ready. All around the world, people who looked like ordinary citizens got the secret message. A teacher in Korea stopped teaching her class. A farmer in America left his field. A doctor in Europe put down her medical tools. They all had another job that was more important than anything else. They were all part of the Terra Defense Initiative. Within hours, secret factories that had been quiet for years started working again. Spaceships that had been hidden in underground hangars were brought out and prepared for war. Weapons that had only been tested were loaded with real ammunition. The most advanced military force in human history was waking up. Li Haiyan looked at the alien messages on his screen one more time. The aliens were so confident that they were already planning what to do with Earth after they conquered it. They were going to strip mine the entire planet and use it as a base for attacking other worlds. They thought the conquest would be so easy that they were treating it like a game. Park Minji stood up from her computer and walked over to Li Haiyan. She had been working on something new while he was thinking about the Terra Defense Initiative. She had found a way to send messages back to the aliens without them knowing where the messages came from. What if we let them know that we heard their plans? She asked. What if we send them a message that makes them think twice about attacking Earth? Li Haiyan thought about this idea for a moment. The aliens expected Earth to be surprised by their attack. They expected humans to be running around in panic when the alien ships arrived. But what if Earth was ready for them? What if Earth sent the first message? Looked at Park Minji and smiled. For the first time in hours, send them a message, he said. But do not tell them we are ready for war. Tell them we know they are coming and we are not afraid. Let them wonder what that means. Park Minji sat back down at her computer and started typing a message that would be sent across the galaxy to the Valak Empire. The message was short, but it would make the aliens very worried. The message said that Earth knew about their plans and Earth was waiting for them. The war between Earth and the Valak Empire had not started yet, but the first move had been made, and for the first time in their history, the Valak Empire was going to fight an enemy that was ready for them. Supreme Admiral Cawthron stood in the center of the Valak Empire's most secure command room watching the recorded battle. Footage from Earth's solar system, his 4 eyes were fixed on the holographic display, showing his scout ships being destroyed by weapons that appeared to come from empty space. Cawthron was the oldest and most experienced military commander in the Valak Empire. He had conquered over 200 worlds and had never lost a single battle. His dark purple skin was covered with scars from 1,000 fights, and his massive frame stood 9 feet tall. The footage showed something that should have been impossible. The primitive planet Earth had destroyed an entire Valak scout fleet using technology that was generations ahead of anything the Empire possessed. The energy weapons passed through Valak shields like they were made of air, and the human defensive platforms were completely invisible to the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. Intelligence Chief Anthara approached the Supreme Admiral with a datapad containing the analysis of the battle. She was smaller than most Valak, but her mind was sharper than any computer the Empire had ever built. Her job was to understand enemies, and she had never encountered an enemy like this. Supreme Admiral, she said, the energy signatures we detected from the human weapons do not match any known technology in our databases. Our scientists believe the humans have discovered a way to manipulate matter at the quantum level. This would make their weapons essentially unstoppable against conventional defenses. Karin looked at the datapad and his expression grew darker. The humans had not just defeated his ships, they had done it with technology that made the Valak Empire look primitive. The implications were staggering. If Earth possessed such advanced weapons, how many other worlds had been hiding their true capabilities? The Supreme Admiral called an emergency meeting of the Valak High Command within hours. The most powerful military leaders in the Empire gathered in the command room to discuss the threat from Earth. The meeting included fleet commanders from every sector of the galaxy and the Empire's top scientists and strategists. General Morthic, commander of the Third Fleet, spoke first. Supreme Admiral, this must be some kind of trick. The humans cannot have developed such technology in the short time since we first detected their civilization. Perhaps they found ancient alien artifacts or received help from another species, but Anthara shook her head. Our analysis shows that the human weapons are not based on any known alien technology. The energy patterns are completely unique. This suggests that the humans developed these weapons themselves using principles of physics that we do not understand. The room fell silent as the implications sank in the Valak Empire had ruled the galaxy for over 1,000 years because they possessed the most advanced technology known to exist. But if humans had developed weapons that could defeat Valak ships, then the Empire's technological superiority was an illusion. Science Director Velkaran stood up to address the meeting. He was responsible for all technological development in the Empire, and his voice was shaking with fear or excitement. Respected colleagues, he said, we may be witnessing the emergence of a new technological paradigm. The humans appear to have made breakthroughs that our science deemed impossible. The meeting quickly turned to planning the Empire's response. The original plan to conquer Earth with a standard invasion force was clearly inadequate. The humans had proven that they could destroy Valak ships with ease, so a conventional attack would result in massive casualties. Supreme Admiral Cawthron made the decision that would escalate the conflict beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. He ordered every available ship in the Empire to be assembled into a single massive fleet. The invasion force would include over 10,000 ships and would be supported by the Empire's most advanced weapons. The assembly of such a large fleet had not been attempted in over 300 years. The logistics alone would require months of preparation. Ships would have to be recalled from every corner of the galaxy and supplied with enough weapons and ammunition for a prolonged campaign. But the military preparations were only part of the Empire's response. The political implications of the defeat were equally important. News of the scout fleet's destruction was already spreading through the Empire's communication networks, despite attempts to classify the information on hundreds of worlds that had been conquered by the Valak Empire. The subject populations were beginning to whisper about the small blue planet that had humiliated the mighty Imperial fleet. Resistance movements that had been crushed decades ago, were starting to reorganize. The Empire's control over its territories was based on fear and the perception of invincibility. The defeat at Earth had shattered that perception and created the possibility of widespread rebellion across the galaxy. Intelligence Chief Anthara warned the High Command that they were facing a crisis that went far beyond a single military defeat. If the Empire could not quickly and decisively defeat Earth, the entire structure of Imperial rule might collapse. The propaganda war began immediately. Imperial communication networks broadcast messages claiming that the scout fleet had been destroyed by a surprise attack using cowardly tactics. The Empire claimed that the humans had used illegal weapons and that the main fleet would easily defeat such treachery, but the propaganda was not entirely convincing. The footage of the battle showed human weapons that were clearly superior to anything the Empire possessed. The energy beams that had destroyed the scout ships were not illegal, they were simply more advanced than Valak technology supreme. Admiral Cawthron knew that the Empire's reputation was at stake. The assembled invasion fleet would have to achieve a decisive victory that would prove Imperial superiority beyond any doubt. A second defeat would likely trigger rebellions across hundreds of worlds. The fleet assembly began with unprecedented urgency. Ships were pulled from patrol duties, garrison posts, and training missions. The Empire's shipyards worked around the clock to prepare vessels for combat and to load them with the most powerful weapons available. As the fleet grew larger, so did the risks. The Empire was committing almost its entire military force to the conquest of a single world. If the invasion failed, there would be no reserves left to maintain order in the rest of the galaxy. The human response to the scout fleet's destruction had been recorded and analyzed by Imperial intelligence. The humans had not broadcast victory messages or made threats. Instead, they had simply cleaned up the debris and returned to their normal activities. This restraint was more frightening than any boast would have been. It suggested that the humans viewed the destruction of an entire Valak fleet as a routine matter not worthy of celebration. This implied that Earth's defensive capabilities were far greater than what they had demonstrated against the scout ships. As the invasion fleet continued to assemble, Supreme Admiral Cawthron studied every piece of intelligence about Earth that the Empire had collected. The planet appeared to be a standard Class M world with a single intelligent species that had recently achieved spaceflight, but the battle footage told a different story. The humans had weapons that could destroy ships from impossible distances, defensive systems that were completely invisible, and coordination that suggested a level of military organization that should have taken centuries to develop. The Supreme Admiral began to suspect that the Empire's intelligence about Earth was fundamentally flawed. The humans were not a primitive species that had recently discovered space travel. They were an advanced civilization that had been hiding their true capabilities for unknown reasons. This realization changed everything. If the humans had been concealing their technology for decades, then they had been preparing for war with the Empire for just as long. The invasion fleet was not attacking a helpless world. They were walking into a trap that had been generations in the making. The Empire's response to the Earth crisis would determine whether the Valak Empire continued to rule the galaxy or whether a new power would rise to challenge their dominance. The fate of billions of beings across hundreds of worlds would be decided in the coming battle, and somewhere in the darkness of space, the human fleet was waiting.